Hello, my lovely friends. We've got some more creepy stories today, and I'm hopping back into Reddit, and I have chosen a couple of different stories. This subreddit is backwards creepy. Subreddit specifically for scary stories that take place in the wilderness, which is like one of my favorite things to read and things to watch, and it's one of my favorite topics. So let's dive in. I gotta put my glasses on. I'm a bit blind, and while I read, I gotta stick my glasses on. Okay, let's go. All right. So the first story that we're gonna go for is "The Voice in the Night," which I'm so excited. Okay. I've been wanting to tell this story with others for a long time. So tell it, my dear. So here we go. A friend of mine has some private land out of the way in the northern Georgia, basically the lower Appalachia, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. He had done some work to the land out there, and we would often be out all day just doing some shooting or hunting. Couldn't be any more American. In 2022, we planned to have a large group of our friends camp out of the land. We would shoot during the day, hang out, and camp that night. And two of us would go deer hunting in the morning. We all stayed up late, and a few retired to their hammocks, or one guy who brought a tent, and the rest of us made a late night run to Waffle House. Again, this is so American. After we got back, we all said goodnight and went to bed. We all set up in a big circle around the fire we had going. That was except for my friend and I, who set up apart from everyone else so we could sneak out in the morning to hunt deer. It was about 3 a.m. and I was in my hammock and unable to go to sleep. I had slept a lick and was wide awake. I didn't do a lot of camping, so I just couldn't get comfortable. About 30 minutes after laying down, I suddenly heard a voice that sounded that it was coming from about 50 yards away. In brackets, it was hard to tell in the dense woods. It came the opposite direction of where everyone was at. It just kept repeating, "Hey, my name. Hey, come here. Hey." It sounded exactly like one of my friends who was asleep in his tent in the opposite direction to the voice. It went on for about maybe 10 to 15 seconds, then abruptly stopped. I've always heard the stories of the Appalachians and the woods. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I knew not to investigate. You know, the whole thing, like, you hear a voice or you hear a scream. No, you didn't. Eventually, about an hour later, I fell to sleep. The next morning, I confirmed with my friends that no one was awake at that time. I've been out there many times since then. You're brave. Those woods really have never felt the same since that event. And in brackets, no one else is around anywhere near those woods. The only thing out there is an abandoned chicken house. After telling the story to a friend that wasn't out there, he told me he wasn't surprised. He also confirmed he never felt that those woods were safe. Him and the guy who owns the woods had a weird event happen while hog hunting late at night. But I'll save that for another time. What did you think of that one? Let me know in the comments. That's interesting. So yeah, I've heard of many of these types of stories. I watch a lot on TikTok and stories on YouTube. And you just hear a lot about like potential mimics. Is it skinwalkers? Like skinwalkers mimicking those like your friend's voice. There are a couple different YouTube channels that I watch that maybe I'll link in the description that I love to watch because they go camping in particular to these woods, like I think somewhere like upstate New York area, and you hear stuff in their mics like when they're filming, and it's extraordinary. It's amazing. Let me know in the comments what you think. Is it a big load of baloney? Or do you genuinely also think that there is more out there that we can't explain? That we have no idea what's out there, right? I mean, yeah, who's to say? Anyway, second story. Okay, so the second one is from subreddit Deep Woods Creepy. Place to share your personal experience in the woods, off the trail, in nature that was eerie, spooky, creepy. And this one is called I Heard Music in the Woods Yesterday, which you sold me with that title. And I've not actually read this, so we're going to read this together. I'm going to find out if it's any good or not. Like, does it spook me or not? Okay, here goes. I was hiking on my family's farm with my dog, like I do every day. I've seen some weird things, but never music. I was sitting on a fallen tree deep in the woods. It's a spot I often frequent. I was there maybe 3 hours before I heard anything. I was sitting there listening to a podcast and drawing when my dog started whimpering and whining. I paused my podcast to comfort him when I heard it. It was extremely faint. I could barely hear it, and it took a lot of straining. If I had to describe what it sounded like, I'd say like an old ice cream truck playing a poor recreation of the US anthem. The beginning 2/3 of the song were unique. I cannot for the life of me remember the tune. However, the last 1/3 sounded exactly like, and the flag was still there, part of the anthem. After that, it was a second or so of silence before it began again. The whole song lasted about 12 seconds before looping. After about 20 seconds of it playing, I began getting nervous and started walking home. I hummed the song the whole way home. Eventually, I couldn't hear it anymore, and as soon as I stopped humming, I immediately forgot the song. I tried to remake the tune, but I just couldn't do it. Any theories on what it might be? I couldn't tell where it was coming from. It started unprompted, seemingly out of nowhere. It never got quiet as I walked. It just suddenly faded out after about 5 minutes of walking. Wow. What bothers me is that it seriously freaked out my dog. So the dog could hear it. This person isn't going crazy. He was whining and barking, and really just freaking out. So we got a few comments on this one. The first one is, have you heard of the term singing in the rigging? Out at sea on boats, the way the wind passes over the boat can lead to a sound that sounds almost like a heavenly choir. First time I heard it, I thought I must be going crazy. I've often wondered if there was a forest equivalent. Hearing an actual song is crazy though. And so it wasn't the actual person who wrote the subreddit, but someone commented, "Oh, I love this theory that the forest could have its own version." What do you think? Could the wind blow in such a way through the forest that it actually creates a tune? Okay, that's interesting. So another person commented, and OP actually responded to this, so let's go through it. I've heard something similar before. I was in the woods with a friend and we heard a faint melody playing on an out-of-tune piano. It was a really soft melody that grew more intense and chaotic, and would end in banging random keys at max volume. Then it would stop abruptly and the woods would fall into silence for about 5 minutes. And gradually we would hear the faint melody begin again and the cycle would repeat. It never sounded any closer or further away from us, even though we kept walking for over half an hour. It always sounded up ahead, just around the next corner. I even captured it on video to prove my friend and that I wasn't going crazy. I wanted to keep investigating, but he was getting super spooked that someone was messing with us. We ended up turning around and leaving, and I never went back to those woods again. So OP replied to this one, "That's exactly how it felt. Only my song sounded like some kind of horn or trumpet being played through an old radio. It never got quieter or louder. It sounded like it was coming from over there, if you know what I mean. Somewhere else, not in a particular direction, but distant. It didn't distinctly begin, it stopped, there was silence, and then it slowly faded back in again. Let me know what you think, guys. Yeah, I'd love to hear your theories below. See you again soon.